through the whole week, she felt like I wasn't supporting her. She felt like I wasn't participating. She felt like I didn't spend enough time with Lily. And yeah,
quality time.
She just wasn't there with me. And I called her out on it, and we had a collision.
Welcome to the Weaponized Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Hewitt. Our weekly mic fix by Ryan.
And I'm your host, Dr. Ryan Hewitt. Well, they need to see your face. I mean, if they can't see your face because the mic's in front, it's like, hi, I'm Kendra Hewitt. Anyway, so what are we talking about today?
You lead.
You lead. So we decided we're going to have a conversation about something that came up for us in the last 2 weeks, and something that both of us have been reading about, and that's creating margin in your marriage. And what that means is creating margin is to make sure you're scheduling time in order to have time with your family, to create connection, to create memories, to have time to bond, have time to enjoy your life together.
Time that's prioritized.
Yeah, time that's prioritized for
present.
And present. Has nothing to do with getting your workout in, has nothing to do with getting work done.
Getting dinner on the table.
It has nothing to do with, doing chores and getting shit done, right? So this is like just, margin for connection, right? Connection either with your children or with your spouse or both.
Yes. And
what came to mind for me, let's talk about what happened with us. So Kendra and I, 2 weeks ago, we had an amazing date night. We went out to one of our favorite places for dinner, and we had great conversation. We went out for a drink on a beautiful hotel patio, watching the sunset.
Got the best seat in the house.
We did get the best seat in the house. It was just meant to be. And we were both just feeling really connected and amazing. And we had like amazing sex in the Bronco.
You really need to tell like all of the details.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, because it's like, we still like, that's a new, I guess.
You just want to talk about it?
Well, I want to talk about it because it's like a new thing for us. Like it's a new playful, fun thing we've done. I like, it's good. So, and then we had, a couple other great experiences, but then here came the week like a freight train. And before I knew it, I was off to the races and had a whole bunch of shit just happen, like any of my weeks always do. So running 2 businesses with 5 employees, with just all the shit that comes with it. And then Kendra managing Lily's summertime schedule, getting her to all her random camps and all of the childcare that she needs to coordinate,
house purchase,
and pay for. And of course, we bought the cabin or the lake house. And there's, I don't know if those listening if you've ever bought a property, there is like an endless supply of things that mortgage companies need from you that make my head hurt. Just like all your tax returns, your blood type, your birth certificate, your green card, your child's like first fingernail clippings, all that.
Oh my God.
So it's just really busy. Like, so fortunately, Kendra has like the ability to be flexible and get these things to people. Like me, I'm very regimented and scheduled. And because of that, Kendra felt by the end of the week that we were disconnected. She felt alone in her endeavors, like raising Lily and managing Lily's little life, her little best life ever that she has no appreciation for as a 4-year-old, which is frustrating, but
with multiple tantrums in between.
Yeah. So, it's just, she's at a difficult age. And so that adds to the angst and just the difficulty. And so, coming off of that, like fantastic 3 or 4 days we had, like I wanted to have sex again. By Friday, we finally like have time together on the couch, and lo and behold, we find ourselves in like disconnected mode, and we were trying to get it on. It wasn't happening. So then we could call it a collision.
We did get it on, but then it started, it turned down
we didn't finish
unfavorable path.
So if this has ever happened to you, you're normal, or at least we're both super weird. So it happens. So yeah, we got it on and we were doing it, and then we weren't doing it because it was not happening the way that either of us, I think, wanted it to happen, especially me. And it was like, So I did not feel connected to Kendra, but here's the thing, like, and guys will totally connect with this, is like the way that men, or the way that I feel connected to my wife, is with physical touch and physical connection, like touch and words of affirmation and whatnot. And the way that Kendra feels connected is through being supported, seen, and what is it? Safe and seen. And like through the whole week, she felt like I wasn't supporting her. She felt like I wasn't participating. She felt like I didn't spend enough time with Lily. And yeah,
quality time.
She just wasn't there with me. And I called her out on it, and we had a collision. And I'm proud of us because we did resolve it by the next morning, whereas in the past it would have just been days of like resentment and, being snarky towards one another and whatnot. But the whole point in saying this is that it's very easy, particularly as married business people with children. We're both entrepreneurs. We both are married, and we have a daughter together. But for those of you listening that relate, it's very easy to get into a place where you feel that disconnection. And I'm reading a book right now by Gino Wickman. I think it's called Flow. I can't remember what it's called. I'm only like a quarter into it, but he told his personal story. And if you know Gino Wickman, and he wrote the book Traction, which is one of the business Bibles out there as far as entrepreneurial operating systems. And he talked about how like his failures as a father and as a husband, not taking vacations or being there for his kids at their sporting events and stuff, but just not being present during those times, where when he looks back now, it makes him like upset to think about how disconnected he felt, or that he knows his family felt from him. And he had a lot of repair to do with his kids and his wife just being in that disconnected state, because he was always super focused on business. And I think for me, that is something that if I'm not careful of, I very easily get caught up in like production and business. And like, it seems self-absorbed and selfish, but like, really it's my why that drives me, like my family and my calling, drives me as much as it does to like do what I do. But if I'm not careful, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs will relate to this, if you're not careful and by the time you've built the company, by the time you've built the movement, by the time you have the lifestyle you've always dreamt of having, if you look back and in your wake, all you have is like failed relationships with your children, with your ex-wives, with your business partners, with your employees, like, was it worth it?
I think about it as like, is it worth building if you know it's going to break something else that has more value?
You don't know it's going to break, though. That's what I'm saying, is that you don't take the time to realize that in order for you to have what you want, you have to have the awareness that you need to be putting efforts in, just like in business, putting efforts in to those relationships, especially with your immediate family. And the effort doesn't just look like scheduling date nights or planning trips or taking your daughter to school or going to her softball game. It looks like you actually being there and being present and participating and being interested and like
creating margin for that presence.
So you've created the space where you're no longer distracted by, and this is the difference between being a business owner and being an employee, is that when you're an employer, it's hard to shut off because your business doesn't cease to exist because you got in your car and came home. But when you're someone who's an employee, you can punch out and just leave it at work. And I've lived both lives. I know what both feel like. And I wouldn't change it. This is not coming from a place of like, oh, woe is me. Like, this is the life I chose and what I want. But it just requires a heightened awareness and sensitivity to, okay, you're going to take this life on where you're going to put an incredible amount of creative energy, effort, and time and money into something that you're going to build. But you have to also make sure you're taking that time to build margin in order for you to spend the time to build a marriage that you want, that you're going to be proud of,
and relationships with your kids,
and friendships, and like relationships with your family, and so on. So this is what we wanted to talk about today, because I see this, I hear other men, especially, that are, I think, in this place of pain, that it's really hard to shut off, and it's hard to make sure that you're building a marriage and relationships with your children that I think deep down in your heart you desire. It's just like, it's very hard to make sure you're building that margin in order to do it. So yeah, I felt the sting last week of like, okay, yes, I was not on purpose, like totally disconnected with you by Friday, right? Even though we're coming off a high of even Tuesday, and it's like 3, and this is where it's really easy for me. It's like 3 fucking days later, and I'm already back to where it feels like we were 10 years ago. And if I'm not careful, I'll go down the spiral of like, oh, and eventually it's like, oh, I'm not enough. And
you go back into that level of
I work my ass off, and it's never enough, which I think we both need to kind of reframe, obviously, how we approach those conversations, because both of us, I could feel like, okay, Kendra's coming at me and she's making the observation that I didn't do these things, but the way that she's confronting me on it is not in a way that I'm ready to receive that. And I've, to me, like, if you put your hand on my heart, you sit on my lap, you tell me like, listen, I don't feel as connected to you as I would like, and I want that. Let's just sit here and talk, and let's connect.
But here's the thing, is that in that moment, I didn't know how to do that.
Right. So you didn't know how to do that, but, and I'm guilty of like what you need. It's like, we've discussed this and we've come up with a solution. It's like, what I need to do every day is ask Kendra, like, hey, how can I help take something things off your plate that you feel overwhelmed with, right?
And sometimes it might be something like, and what I explained to Ryan is that by him asking me that, it makes me feel like he is prioritizing me. Some days I might not have anything to say. You can help me with this. There's many days that I'm like, I don't know what I need help with.
Yeah, but right? You're not going to come back at me and be like, oh, you didn't do this.
You didn't ask, right? And then like sometimes the beauty is in the asking, and that makes me feel prioritized. Sometimes it's like, hey, show me that, like, make me a cup of coffee.
All right, well, you have this weird fucking mushroom coffee that I don't even know what to do with anymore.
It's really easy.
It was super easy when I could just hammer out the Keurig, and I knew how to do that. And I would do it all the time.
Anyways,
show me how to make your mushroom coffee, and I'll do it.
Okay, right. So anyways, I don't want to get like digress down that path. But one of the things that I thought was really helpful when we were talking through this is that thinking about it after the fact of like, hey, there's 2 paths that Ryan could be going down right now. One of the paths could be, yes, he is being selfish and being self-absorbed, which is one I did used to go to a lot in the past. And then the other path is, hey, he is working his balls off and he doesn't even realize that he's working it, that we're disconnected, because he's just focused on the path of like working his balls off of what he needs to do. And where I failed to do is like, I was confused on which path it was, because they both looked the same to me. Like, hey, is he being a self-absorbed person and not what you
were
say?
Not saying that that nice in your head.
No, but no. Now, like after we worked it out,
no, I'm saying in your head, you're like selfish or a self-absorbed asshole.
Yeah. Or is he like, like I hear it as self-absorbed sex asshole, like sex-driven asshole.
Oh.
Or is he being like, is the intent malicious, or is it like not intentional that we're starting to drift? And when I started to think about it this way and start to clear up some of the confusion on my side, what it allowed me to do was come from a place of a little bit more compassion and like get some clarity on that. Like, hey, I knew you weren't doing this on purpose. So I'm not angry. I'm just not clear on how to ask for what I needed at that point, which was, again, to feel prioritized. And also the prioritizing leads to me feeling more connected. So I think
Right.
that's
And that's taken a long time for me to figure out. And it's really hard because my ego wants to say, well, am I not attractive to you? Like,
am I not enough? Do I never do anything
don't you want to
right?
fuck me? Am I not enough? But the reality is that, like, that's not what she's thinking at all. I like when you tell me that I'm attractive and I'm enough, but she's really just saying, like, hey, did you see me this week? And did you make me a priority? And if I look back on it, and you'll say it when you're fighting with me, and like, you'll say it to like stab me, be like, oh, so tell me an example of when you made me like feel like a priority this week. I'm like, I don't know. What does that look like?
Mhm.
And you're like, well, I don't know. And then that gets nowhere. Right. But we figured out, like, okay, so for Kendra to feel like a priority, she needs me to ask her how I can help her. How can I take Lily off of your plate? So, because to you, what's attractive to you is like, oh, Ryan is spending time and connecting with his daughter and spending quality time. That turns you on.
Mhm.
Right. Oh, Ryan offered to
Is freeing me up.
Yes, freeing me up so I can do whatever the fuck it is you want to do.
Sometimes it's like 10 minutes of silence with no stimulus would be amazing. Like, it's not like I'm not asking you to like go buy me a, Badgley Mishka bag or whatever.
That would
it
be
is.
very fucking clear and easy, though. You know what I'm
Like,
saying?
go buy me a bag. I like when you do that.
Yeah, that's a lot
Which
easier.
I would never ask for.
No,
in
but
my
how
whole
much
life.
easier is it? Like, here's your instruction. You buy this and you get that. Like, great. That's so literal and so easy.
Mhm.
But it's not. Yeah, it's not that clear, especially to like guys are just literal, right?
Yes, and women struggle with that. In
Yeah,
my experience,
which is God's sense.
Maybe I'm speaking just for myself, but
God's sense of humor of like, hey, let's see if we can make this work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why this is like, that's why we have a podcast about this. Like, this is something that is not unique to us. This is something.
Well,
that
I
all
think
couples
that
struggle
like
with.
come back to the flow and being present, like conversation.
Okay.
Because one of the things I showed Ryan was that when we were talking about what we're going to talk about today, is I was sharing with him a post of one of our friends who also has a podcast with his wife. And I was like, man, this is really good copy. And it just like hit a nerve. And he had talked about how he was going to on vacation. I don't know if this was recent or in the past, but he was on vacation with in Cabo with his wife. They have 2 kids and young kids. And so he's like in the weeds, and like he was talking about how like he's in the hotel room, he's in real estate and just like negotiating contracts and signing like deals. And like he's just busy, like, and missing the moments and the moments he can't get back. And like it just hit me, like, because this was basically what I was trying to say on Friday, is that like there's big moments like when you're on vacation, but then there's also the everyday little moments that not only can you celebrate, but you can also make easier for someone else. And maybe that's part of my personality, but like, and then he was sharing, he's like, I'm sitting in the hotel room, like on my computer while my kids are on the beach playing. And my wife underneath this is angry, alone, and feeling abandoned. And like, and I was like, fuck. I was like, I remember so many like quote vacations that we were so excited to be on that like we both were just like still busy. We were still our bodies were in a separate location, but our brains were here on like what we need to do at the practice and what we need to like how we're going to pay off that and like all of that kind of busyness even in our minds. And it just like it took so much moments to the point where like we wouldn't travel a lot, like for especially the first couple years of the practice, because it was more stressful to travel than it was enjoyable. And now we've really switched that like whole perception. But I just reminding yourself that it's like so easy. That's what like creating margin is about. It's so easy to let the busyness. I love the saying like, are you doing activity without accomplishment? And like sometimes the accomplishment is just literally connecting. And that's what I was asking for on Friday night, but I didn't know how to clearly ask for that.
Well, I'm going to tell you what comes to mind for me. And I think people that are business owners are going to relate the most to this. And I've had conversations with other men about this who are like solopreneurs, right? So in other words, they have businesses that they built, but they've really just built a job for themselves. And you're talking about the first couple of years of practice. Well, yes, because the business, here's the thing, like if I'm not there, the business doesn't make money. If I'm not there, we lose money.
That's the mindset.
Yeah. And then we're spending money. So it's like a triple whammy when your business ceases to operate when you're not there.
When you're the operator.
Right. So.
And not scaled.
That's right. So in other words, like the journey for me as a business owner, but also I can think about all the categories of my life in creating margin is really just about maturing in, I think like in your, what did you say? It was like the levels of consciousness, values levels of consciousness. Like, when you're on a lower values level of consciousness, you're trying to do it all yourself. And I think that, men that are trying to do it all themselves, you'll eventually burn out. You'll either burn out or you
have an identity crisis. You have some sort of crisis that basically wakes you up.
Yeah. So you'll burn it down or you'll burn out. Right. And
this happens for both women and men.
Sure. I know. I'm just speaking for men on my behalf. And the reason I'm saying this is because now vacations are a lot more free because my business operates and makes money while I'm not there. And, we've created margin in our finances where we save up and pay for these vacations ahead of time. So it doesn't feel like we're burdened or strapped for cash when we're on vacation. And in fact, when I go on vacations, it helps me reset my mind and actually grow more when I come back. Like, I'm better than I was before I left. Rather than like, oh my God, we spent all this money. Oh my God, how are we going to pay for this? So, but that only happens when you do the work of continuing to like up level your mindset and where you are in your business, but you have to do the same thing in your marriage as well. And it comes with like a different mindset, right? So, so the reason I'm saying this is because like you're saying, like create margin, but the margin doesn't happen by default. Like you have to create it. So, and by creating it, like as an entrepreneurial couple, like the only way this happens is if we come together and have productive conversation and make a plan and then execute on the plan. And that's the same thing happens in business too. So now like it's taken 15 years to get to where we are now. Right. And the game is not over. Right. So there's always like a next level to the game. But if you don't, and I'm not saying you have to wait till you're 15 years in business to start enjoying vacations and having margin, which you can do that in your first year business, but it takes a different mindset to do that.
Which brings me to the book I'm reading, which is absolutely amazing. It's called Buy Back Your Time. And one of the things that you just reminded me of that I was reading this morning on this book was he talked about how like the average business owner is like their mindset, the ones that you're talking about, the ones that actually created jobs for themselves, is like, if I just work harder or work longer, eventually I'll be able to get rid of this business. Like, so basically what happens is they start doing all these menial tasks, right? And you basically become the administrator of your business, but you don't do anything that you actually started the business for. So like, for example, in his book, he shares an example of a person that's like his brother who's amazing at sales. And he starts investing in real estate. And before he knows it, he's not actually doing any sales at all. He is doing all task-oriented management stuff. And he goes to his brother's house and his brother has no furniture. And he's like, what happened to your furniture? He's sleeping on an air mattress with his dog. And he's like, I took all my furniture out because I'm staging this house that I'm selling, but it won't sell. And he's like, his brother was his investor in this project. And he was like, listen, he's like, we need to get you back to doing the things that you're actually really good at and none of the things that you are currently doing in your day-to-day, because you're basically a project manager when you're meant to be a salesperson. And he was saying that, and this is what you just reminded me of, like the shift is to go from a business owner that there is no end game, because the game just keeps you get better at the game, at playing the game, and the game gets bigger. You get to go on to the next level. And so with buy back your time, you just made me think about is like, this is the same thing that has to happen in your marriage, is that what this guy's suggesting in his business. And this is what the most ironic part is. I worked with a couple last night that was like, it's so fun because I'm starting to do some work with some couples. And I'm finding it really interesting to me right now. And their homework assignment was that they had to audit their time and how they spent their time in their business. Now, ironically, this book is the next step is his first step is doing a time audit on your business, like how you're spending time in your business. And he broke it differently down than I had explained that I wanted them to do to this couple. And I explained to this couple that like the biggest thing is that you need to have your facts of like before you can determine where you're going to go on the destination, like with your business. And I was like, the same thing applies to your marriage. Like if you don't audit your time of like, if you look at your week and you start writing down, like you might be shocked to see, I know we would be shocked to see how little time you at last week had with Lily and had to connect with me, which is then instead of me saying anything, I waited till Friday till it kind of blew up because I didn't have the facts to support, hey, this is how this was just based on feeling, not on the facts. So looking at your marriage is like, and I'm not talking about like, hey, how much time did you spend on vacation last year? How many date nights did you go on this month? Just like you said, like this is way beyond date nights. This is like on a consistent basis, how much time are you committing to your relationship?
Yeah. And then, so I'm going to interrupt because I think like a big mindset shift had to happen for me at a certain, I think this was like after 2020 really. But I think back to like when I was in my 20s or in my teens maybe. And there was, so I'm in my group of friends, right? And all my group of friends, their parents are all employees, except one of my friends who lived in the nicest neighborhood, whose father was a business owner. And I remember his father got a flat tire and he paid someone to pick up his car, tow it, fix a flat tire. And, you know, the five of us were like, can't even fix his own flat tire. And now I realize like 20 years later, I'm like, he probably could fix a flat tire. It doesn't fucking matter. He's not going to do $25 to $30 an hour work because
he's worth $300 plus an hour.
Yeah. So, but I'm not saying that like you have to look at all of your time as how much is it worth an hour, but it's a very valuable exercise. For example, one of the things we had to get over, and you especially had to get over this, was like, we're paying someone to come clean our house. We are going to pay someone to like weed and do all the leaves. We're going to pay people to like take some of these tasks that otherwise would take away like hours and hours and hours of activities that are otherwise like totally meaningless other than just to-dos and tasks.
And unnecessary frustration. Like you're going to laugh because you know I'm going to say this, but it's like the lawn, right? Ryan can cut the lawn. He likes to cut the lawn. But it's like when it happens is not consistent because like, let's say here's the day he has an hour to go cut the lawn and he instead it's pouring rain and he can't cut the lawn.
Yeah. Well, that's one example. So you don't have to take all of your tasks off your plate. If there's one thing you love to do, I'm not saying you can't do it, but there's probably 5 or 6 things you can offload or leverage. Like we have a chef cook our meals 3 days a week, or me right now. And it saves me a tremendous amount of stress and hassle and time. You know, grocery delivery, all this stuff, like we invest the money on doing this. Like you do not have to be wealthy in order to offload meaningless tasks that are stealing from your time that you could otherwise be productive in making money and or investing that time into creating connection and memories with your family.
And how I really love this, like I said, buy back your time book is the guy says is that it's twofold on buying back your time. You're either letting giving yourself opportunity to be more productive, to make more money. But the real thing that he's focused on is giving yourself activities that give you energy and make you feel not only connected to others,
Yeah.
but yourself,
Yeah.
because there's two folds of it. And like you said, you're talking about on a monetary context because the book is a business context.
Mhm.
But in a relationship, it's like, I'm talking way beyond money freedom, right? I'm talking about like energy that gives energy to your relationships.
Mhm.
And that's the thing you should be auditing is like, hey, where's my margin for me to give energy to my relationships that matter? And a perfect example is you were just talking about the chef Jamie. She's a friend of mine. But like I for the summer decided that I was, because like my schedule is a little bit more flexible. I have Lily now. I'll take it off from meals. Part of my stress last week was I was like, fuck, I have to make my own meals.
Well, why don't you just have her keep making
And
meals?
so hold on, but it was a great exercise because I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this is how much this is worth
Right.
to me
There you go.
to free myself up. But if I didn't take that break, I would have not been back in that conundrum of like, and it's a luxury. Like it was a stretch for us. It still is a stretch for us. Like financially, it is like she only does it for half the week. But even that half the week gets me through the point where it creates freedom for me to have more margin with right now with Lily. And I was like, so like maybe I do need to go back to that.
And this is the same exercise that you have to do with yourself if you want to break free of becoming like the solopreneur to becoming a CEO. You have to audit your time and say which of these time activities is not my highest and best use of time that is my most productive to grow this business. And then you delegate those tasks to an employee.
Yeah.
You do the same thing you can do the same thing in your relationships, in your marriage. You could do the same thing, anywhere in your life, really. And it doesn't always mean that you have to be making, millions and millions of dollars to do that.
Yeah.
So like, I think where we should leave this podcast is like, as a couple, if you're, a married couple, that whether you own businesses or not, where do you find yourselves in the weeds, doing things you fucking hate that steal from your opportunities to connect either with your spouse or your children that you could start paying somebody to do for you?
Yep. And here's the real caveat. And I was hoping we would get to this point is then ask your significant other. And here's what might happen. You might ask your wife and she'll be like, oh, I don't need a cleaner. I used to be that person. We don't really need a cleaner. We don't really need a chef, all of these kind of things. But then we started dipping our toes in that. And I was like, whoa, I have 4 more hours to do something else that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Instead of cleaning, which I suck at.
And for guys, my wife is happier. She's more fulfilled. She has more time to connect. I have more sex. If that's not more motivation, then I don't know what
it always comes down to that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Survive and reproduce. The two most driving forces of nature in our genes. So yes. Anyways, so that's where I'm going to wrap it up. You can say your thing.
No, that was it. So do that time audit, and challenge your spouse to do the same thing. Just be like, hey, honey, can you record you don't have to record everything you do every day, but can you just start by recording the things that you realize you're spending 4 to 10 hours a week on that you actually don't like doing? Because here's the thing. When I need to clean the bathroom and Ryan's coming home and I'm like, shit, I got 5 minutes to finish this or whatever it is. How do you think I receive you when I know I'm having to complete something that A, I hate doing, and B, I feel now stressed about completing? I'm not going to greet you at the door. I'm going to greet you cleaning the toilet.
You don't clean the toilet.
So I'm using it as an example.
The kitchen, maybe the kitchen
doing that. Yeah. Okay. So
especially when you have an ADD cooking show and there's fucking dishes and food everywhere. Yeah.
Even the babysitter walked in today and I was like, I have literally been doing this, emptying this sink for 35 minutes and I need to just go upstairs. So, but just thinking about asking, even the act of you asking your wife proactively, be like, what's the one thing I could take off your list? And then if you could figure out that you could actually pay a person and afford to pay a person to do that, then start small. We started with the cleaner. Yeah. Then we started with the lawn
cleaner
people.
Every 2 weeks, by the way.
Yes. And then we started with the lawn people. Then now we're on the chef. So it's what are those things that you can actually be doing?
Good job. We'll wrap it up there. So thank you for listening. As always, share, rinse,
Rate,
repeat, rate, review.
review, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys next week.